this speech. I've demanded changes, he refuses to make them. No, I'm teasing, he came to Berkeley with us this year. That was a good experience, wasn't it? All right, so this is Jesus Munoz, and his speech is called Economies of Murder, and he has a lot of personal experience with this topic. I hope we can all understand. All right, Jesus, speak clearly.
It was a cold night, and I was sleeping in my old house back in Juarez when I was woken by the flames that were burning my neighbor's house to the ground. At first, I thought my house was the one burning, but thankfully it wasn't. Fortunately, my neighbors escaped through the back door, so they survived. I was 13 at the time, and I was friends with a 10-year-old who lived next door, named Nacho. I couldn't believe their bad luck, because just 2 weeks before, 4 members of their family were murdered by gunfire while standing in a street corner. What I didn't know then was that they weren't just unlucky bystanders. They were part of the drug violence that has held Mexico in its grip for the past decade. I was born in Ciudad, Juarez, Mexico, once the most dangerous city in the world. I basically lived my whole life there until 2011, when the violence forced my family and me to leave everything behind and look for security in the US. Since 2006, my city has suffered a bloody war between the Sinaloa cartel and the Juarez cartel. The incompetent Mexican government under President Felipe Calderon did nothing but make this war even worse when he sent the corrupt Mexican army to occupy Juarez on the pretense of establishing law and order. Instead, the soldiers extorted money from the residents, victimizing them as much as the drug cartels did. In 2010, this war left my city in a profound sorrow that will never be forgotten. In 2010, according to the Washington Post, there were an estimated 3,115 murders in Juarez, which put it as the world's most dangerous city. But why? Why is all this violence occurring in Mexico in the last years? Why? Well, one of the main factors that is contributing to the violence is that Mexico shares about 2,000 miles of border with the world's biggest consumer of drugs, the United States. The huge demand for illegal drugs in this country is so enormous that it has created a vicious business among the Mexican drug cartels. According to CNN, these cartels earn about $48 billion from the drug sales in the US each year. This multi-billion-dollar industry is destroying whole societies and generations, sickening Americans, Mexicans, and Central Americans alike. So, as the mafia drug keeps growing, the Mexican drug cartels keep brutally fighting each other to obtain the street rights to the US drug market. And all these fights for American dollars have brought a new life for the Mexican people. A new life full of fear and despair. Every day, my people has to endure with the horrors of this war. Horrors that are difficult to believe, but are happening. Examples of these horrific crimes are the mass graves found in Durango, Mexico in 2011, where they found at least 340 people dead. About the 9 bodies found hanging from a bridge in Nuevo Ladero. And the forensic department in Juarez, my city, that is storing bodies in the roof of their facilities because these buildings are flooded with them. These atrocities might sound disturbing, but they are the sad reality of today's Mexico. I wish I could bring peace and happiness to my beloved land once again, but I'm powerless. So are my people. The American public is apparently not sufficiently concerned about this problem. The American government is more interested in our conflicts overseas that are really threatening the integrity of this nation. Instead of resolving the drug war that is taking place in Mexico and even right here in the US, this war has cost humanity at least 60,000 deaths. And yet, we don't demand an end to it. The violence of this war is continuously crossing the American border, causing bloodshed in American cities, just like El Paso and Los Angeles. And yet, we are doing little, if anything, to stop it. We are not doing anything but making this war even worse. We are fueling the flames of this war when we as society see drug addiction as an everyday thing. You see, whenever I see somebody smoking marijuana in my neighborhood, which is quite often, I always say to myself, these are the people who are causing all the problems back home. Yes, they're the ones, because they're fueling the flames that are burning my society in hell. And you might ask, what about the Mexican government? What have it done to stop all these massacres from happening in the first place? Well, let me just tell you this. The Mexican government lost this war long time ago. This government is full of corruption, and you can clearly see that they are supporting the cartels. Their shameful army and federal police have committed countless of calamities on my people. You see, I remember the first time I saw the Mexican army passing by the streets of my house with their fancy weapons and military vehicles. As an innocent child, I was excited to see them, and I was even waving my hand to them. But as the years passed, I no longer admired them. Instead, every time I saw them, I felt like spitting their faces for betraying their own Mexican fellows. That's the way we Mexicans feel about our government. We no longer trust them, nor expect anything positive from them. But even though my society is drowning in despair, I still believe we can make a difference. I still believe we can change Mexico as it used to be, for their sake and ours as well. But what we need is a real solution. What causes all the violence are not the cartels or the corruption. The cause for all the violence is the demand for drugs in the US. The cartel violence and the corruption are the results of this issue. You see, it's ironic to stop this problem by trying to end what is happening in Mexico. Because even if you destroy the cartels, even if you end the corruption, the demand for drugs is going to be there. And nothing is going to change. You see, last week, Joaquin El Chapo Guzman, which is known as the world's most powerful drug dealer, was arrested by the Mexican police and the US Drug Enforcement Administration. So what? There's already someone else who is going to replace him. That is why I say that you can expect to stop something if you start from the results, right? Therefore, I advocate to the United States Congress to pass a resolution that will establish the following actions. First, the legalization of marijuana. By legalizing marijuana, it will be produced here in the US. This will not only help the economy, but will also cut the business of the cartels. As a result, their powers and the influence of these criminal organizations will eventually disappear, ending the bloodshed in this country. Second, a compulsory requirement to the United States government to reinforce the 1,000 miles of border with Mexico with more sophisticated technology in order to prevent any further drug trafficking to this country. Third, in order for this resolution to be successful, it will need the full cooperation of both countries. We all need to understand that while we continue discussing whether the legalization of marijuana is right for this country, many people on the other side of the border are being killed every single day. Now, we need to ask ourselves, is solidarity, not just as human beings, but as neighbors, going to change this reality? Or is ignorance going to hold us back? Thank you.